For more on Zelensky's visit, John Kirby joins us now. He's the National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications. Admiral, good to see you. Thanks for being here. What exactly is the Biden administration hoping to accomplish with this meeting with President Zelenskyy?
Well, there was a couple objectives here. One was to make sure that as winter sets in and as Putin has escalated this conflict by targeting civilian infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and civilians themselves, that President Zelenskyy knew, tangibly could tell how much the United States was going to stand by Ukraine going forward. We've got an omnibus bill that's coming up. Hopefully we'll get passed through the Congress in the next day or so. That will give us another $45 billion worth of authority to go out and purchase more weapons, more capabilities for Ukraine, and provide other financial assistance. That was the main purpose, was to make sure that, again, as this war has entered a new phase, President Zelenskyy could tell that the American people and that this administration would stand by them.
And it was, striking to hear the significance of the two men meeting face to face. Biden said politics is personal. He is asked about the significance of standing with Zelenskyy. What kind of message does that send to allies? What kind of message does that send abroad? What is the significance that the Biden administration sees about the moment of them standing together?
The common message is really one of unity and resolve. That's a message that was obviously delivered to the American people, to the Ukrainian people, to our allies and partners, not just in Europe, but around the world who are contributing assistance to Ukraine. It's also a very important message for Vladimir Putin and for the Kremlin, so that they can see demonstrably, tangibly, the United States is going to stay with Ukraine. We're going to stick with them. We're going to support them. As the president said tonight, we're going to support them for as long as it takes.
As long as it takes. He has said that. He has said that time and time again. But you do have some members of Congress in the Republican Party who are saying that their constituents are growing concerned about how long this goes on, how long the U.S. can continue to fund this operation, even with a strong U.S. ally. How long does this go on? What does it mean, whatever it takes?
It's difficult to put a date on the calendar and say, OK, this is where it ends, because we just don't know. And the two leaders talked about that today. It's hard to know how and when this war is going to end. But we want to make sure that if and when it comes to a negotiated settlement, if Mr. Zelenskyy finds himself at the table across from Vladimir Putin, negotiating a diplomatic end, that he can do it with the strength that he needs and the leverage he needs. And that's why we're going to make sure that his military can continue to succeed on the battlefield. And that was the point the president was making tonight. So it's difficult to know exactly how long. But when he says for as long as it takes, the president means that. I would just add a couple of points there, though, on the Republican concerns that you mentioned. And clearly, they've made that known publicly. I would say that we need to appreciate the bipartisan support that we've had from Congress, both sides of the aisle, both chambers of Congress, fully supporting our efforts to assist Ukraine for the last 10 months, actually even longer than that, before the invasion even started. And we have every expectation that that support's going to continue, even with the new Congress next year.
Yeah, and you heard McConnell say today that this is a top priority. I do want to ask about these, what is being sent over to Ukraine, mentioning the Patriot systems. Our David Martin, Pentagon correspondent, was just telling us before you came on that, noting that this is just one battery, that it's not going to make a huge difference. How do you see it? And, in response to what one of the Ukrainian journalists asked, will there be more coming?
It may only be one battery, but it will be a significant contribution to Ukrainian air defense. It's got a range of 35 to 40 kilometers there in terms of the ability to hit targets coming in. It's a very effective, very advanced system. So we do believe it's going to make a difference on the battlefield. But the thing about air defense is it has to be layered. It can't just be one system. And I think that's what David was probably talking about. It's got to be other systems. And we have provided more advanced short-range air defense systems, and we're going to continue to do that as well. And other allies and partners are also contributing air defense systems of various ranges and strengths and capability to help Ukraine really develop the sort of layered air defense that they need.
The president also said that he is, that U.S. troops will train Ukrainians to be able to use these kinds of weapons. What does that look like? I mean, there's still that commitment of no troops on the ground. That's correct?
That's right. That's right. The training will be done outside Ukraine, and I think for right now we're not getting into any more detail than that. But it'll be trained. They'll be trained outside Ukraine, as David rightly reported. That means you're going to have to take some soldiers out of the fight for a period of time to go through this training. The Patriot system is very advanced, and so we don't know exactly how long every training session is going to be, but it's going to be some weeks to get them trained up on the Patriot system, which means they won't be available to the fight inside Ukraine. But again, while you have to sacrifice a little bit to get the troops out for training, you got to think about the additional capability that Patriot system is going to bring when you put it back into Ukraine and put them back into Ukraine to actually use it. I mean, Ukraine is under constant air assault from missiles and from Iranian drones, hundreds of them, almost every day, certainly dozens every day. And a system like this will help them beat back some of those air assaults and try to protect some of that civilian infrastructure, the power, the heat that Putin is trying to turn off here in the middle of winter.
And Admiral, this visit by Zelenskyy was so carefully orchestrated. It was held so close for security concerns. Are you concerned about his safety?
I think we all want to make sure that President Zelenskyy stays safe so that he can continue to lead his country in the inspirational way that he has over this last year. It's really been remarkable. Again, I won't get into his personal security. I don't think that will be wise on TV, but I can say that we assisted in his travel to the United States. We will assist in his travel back home. We want to make sure that again, he can get right back at it, be the commander-in-chief that he has been, and do so for, again, as long as this is going to take.
All right, Admiral John Kirby, thank you so much for your time.